Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into the world of foreign affairs officers today.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is a good one, right?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, who wouldn't want to be, shaping global events, traveling the world? This sounds amazing.
Right. And it's really for people who are passionate about global events and shaping the world. But it is a very competitive field.
That's very
So
true.
being prepared for these interviews is going to be really important.
It is. So we've got a ton of resources for you guys today. We're looking at RoleCatcher's Career Guide,
Yes.
your interview guide.
Yeah.
We've got the interview questions repository.
Yep.
And we're also going to touch a little bit on their AI platform as well.
Right. Because all of those things can really help you prepare for this interview.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right in.
Yeah.
One of the first questions that you're very likely to get is, can you tell us about your experience working in international relations? Now, this one sounds really simple, but it's actually a great opportunity to
Ex-
really sell yourself.
Yeah. You want to think of it as storytelling with a purpose. So instead of just like listing all the things you've done, you want to pick certain experiences and then go into detail about how those experiences demonstrate the skills that are important for a foreign service officer.
Right. And what would some of those skills be that you would want to highlight?
So research analysis communication, and you want to make sure that you can give concrete examples.
Okay, so like what kind of concrete examples could you give?
So maybe you analyzed a trade agreement as part of an internship or wrote a report on current geopolitical trends or even volunteered for an international NGO.
That's a great point. And I would say, too, don't forget to quantify your achievements.
That's right.
Did your research lead to like a policy decision?
Right.
Did your negotiation skills help like an agreement get signed and, quantify what you did?
Those numbers really make a difference.
Yeah,
And they really grab attention.
For sure. So now, what if they follow up with something like, give us an example of a time you had to adapt to a different cultural context?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so this is obviously probing like,
Yeah.
how good is your cultural sensitivity and how adaptable are you
Right. And adaptability is so key,
Especially
to being a foreign service officer.
in this role?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's not enough to just say, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm aware of different cultures.
Right. You have to show it.
You got to have some examples.
Sort of your experience.
So have you worked on a project with people from different backgrounds? Have you traveled or lived abroad?
Exactly.
Was there a time that you had to change your communication style or approach based on cultural norms?
And what's really fascinating here is how you frame that experience because you want to highlight not just what happened, but what you learned from it
Ooh, that's,
and how it enhanced your cultural
I
intelligence.
love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up, let's say they ask you, how do you stay up to date with global affairs and political developments?
Yeah, we all skim the headlines,
Right.
but this is where you really show that you go deeper, that you are genuinely engaged.
Yeah. Like I read the New York Times every morning. Does that count?
You want to be a little bit more specific than that.
Okay.
So you could mention specific sources you rely on,
Okay.
like academic journals, maybe some think tanks,
Yeah.
foreign news outlets, maybe even podcasts, like this one.
There you go.
But it shows that you're really committed to staying informed and especially about complex global issues.
And I would say this is also a really great place if you have foreign language skills
Yes,
to mention those
definitely.
because it shows you're,
Yeah,
committed to understanding different perspectives.
that's great. Speaking of perspectives, another question you might get is, how do you approach building relationships with foreign governments and officials? And here, diplomacy is key.
Yes. And it's not just about like, having good manners.
No.
It's really about, establishing that trust
Right, building
and
their...
navigating all those cultural nuances.
Aye.
So have you ever collaborated with people from different cultural backgrounds, or maybe in a school project or an internship? If so, you really want to focus on the skills that you use to, build that rapport.
Yes, and to achieve a common goal.
Exactly.
And a compelling story or anecdote here can really solidify this.
Okay, so what would be a good anecdote?
So let's say you had to resolve a conflict or misunderstanding due to cultural differences. Share how you approach that situation and the positive outcome that you were able to achieve.
Yeah, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about one that I think is a little bit stressful.
Okay.
How do you approach crisis management in foreign affairs?
Ooh, that is a stressful one.
Right.
But they're really looking for composure here
Yeah.
and clear-headedness even when things are really intense.
Like you don't get flustered.
Right, exactly.
You can handle it.
Yes. So think of a time when you faced a high-pressure situation, maybe a tight deadline on a project, or even a personal challenge.
And how did you gather information and make those decisions?
Right, and communicate effectively under that stress.
Exactly. And I think what's really important here is to connect whatever experience you're talking about back to those skills that are needed in a foreign affairs crisis.
Right.
So, did you have to analyze information really quickly? Did you have to coordinate with a lot of different stakeholders or remain calm under pressure?
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be,
It doesn't have to be a global crisis.
like the Cuban Missile Crisis or something like
Right. It can be a much smaller situation.
Yeah.
But as long as it shows that you can think on your feet and make good judgments under pressure.
that. Okay, I like that. Now let's go to another one. Can you describe a time when you had to navigate complex cultural differences in your work?
This one's all about cultural sensitivity.
Yeah, it really is.
So this is where your storytelling can really shine. Think about a time when you worked with people from diverse backgrounds
Okay.
or encountered some cultural misunderstandings.
And then how did you adapt your communication style to kind of
Right.
bridge that cultural divide?
They show respect for different perspectives.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would also say don't be afraid to be a little bit vulnerable here.
That's right.
Like it's okay to say like, oh, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Or this was really challenging for me.
Definitely.
As long as you show what you learned from that experience and how you've become, a better communicator and collaborator because of it.
So now we've talked about experience, but we also need to think about how to make sure that your application and all of your answers really resonate with a specific role.
Yeah, because it's great to have all these experiences,
Right.
but you need to highlight the right ones.
Yeah, and that's where RoleCatcher's AI-powered platform can really come in.
It can. And it's amazing because it can analyze job descriptions to identify missing skills and even suggest content for your CV or your resume.
And your interview responses.
And your interview response.
It's like having a coach, a personalized coach. So their CV and resume builder can help you highlight the most relevant skills and experience.
And then they have that interview practice feature as well.
Yes.
That gives you feedback on your answers.
That's right.
So you can refine your delivery.
Yeah, and the content.
Awesome. Okay, so I know we've covered a lot.
We have.
But I do want to emphasize something that's really important in RoleCatcher's career guide, and that is the idea that continuous learning is vital
Oh, absolutely.
in this field.
Yes, because the world of foreign affairs is constantly evolving, so you have to keep learning.
It is.
You have to stay on top of things.
So what would be some good ways to do that?
Well, you could attend conferences, pursue an advanced degree,
Okay.
engage in research,
Yeah.
even listen to podcasts like this one.
There we go again.
But all of those things show that you're dedicated to staying ahead of the curve
Yes.
and deepening your understanding of global issues.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's a great place to stop for part 1. So we'll be back with part 2, where we'll continue talking about some more interview questions and some other things from RoleCatcher that'll be really helpful.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. See you guys then.
Bye. Okay, so, we were talking about some tough interview questions before the break.
Yes, we were.
And here's another one that often trips people up. How do you balance competing priorities and interests in international negotiations?
Ooh, that's a good one. That takes a lot of strategic thinking.
It
You
is.
have to be able to find common ground when everybody wants something different.
Right, exactly.
So how do you even begin to answer something like that?
Well, you want to demonstrate your problem-solving skills. So instead of thinking about it as winning or losing,
Okay.
you want to highlight how you identify shared interests and manage disagreements, and then ultimately find solutions that benefit everybody.
So it's all about finding that compromise.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So would it be helpful to give like a real world example here?
Definitely.
Like maybe from a school project or volunteer experience?
Yes, anything where you had to consider different perspectives, weigh different options.
And then ultimately come to a decision that worked for most, if not all of the people involved.
Right, and that shows that you can think strategically and build consensus.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, let's look at this one. How do you measure the success of your work in foreign affairs?
Okay.
So I feel like it would be easy to just talk about promoting peace.
Right, or advancing national interests.
Yeah, but that's very abstract.
It is very
So
abstract.
they probably want something more concrete.
Right, they want to see that you can think critically
Okay.
and evaluate outcomes.
So what would be some good ways to measure success?
Did your research contribute to a policy change
Uh,
that led to measurable improvements?
So there has to be some sort of impact
Right,
that you can point to.
exactly. And, even if you can't reveal classified information, you can talk about the process of evaluating your work.
Okay.
Gathering data, analyzing feedback, tracking key performance indicators.
So it's not just about saying, oh, I did this great thing. It's about, you know, how did you know it was a great thing?
Exactly.
And, speaking of evaluation, I think it's important to mention that RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you assess your own skills
They can.
and tailor your application
Yes.
to specific job descriptions.
It's incredible how AI can pinpoint those areas where you might need to bolster your expertise.
So, like, for example,
Let's say a job description really emphasizes intercultural communication as a key skill.
okay,
RoleCatcher's AI can look at your CV and suggest relevant experiences to highlight or even recommend training programs.
that's amazing.
It is. It's like having a personalized career advisor.
It really is.
Okay, so another question that you might encounter is, how do you stay objective and impartial in your work in foreign affairs?
Now, this one's interesting to me because it's all about, your ethical compass.
It is.
Like, how do you ensure that you're not letting your own personal opinions or biases
Right.
affect your work?
Exactly, because objectivity is so crucial for good analysis and decision making.
It really is.
So you want to emphasize in your answer your commitment to seeking information from diverse sources,
Okay.
evaluating different perspectives, acknowledging potential biases.
So it's really about making sure that you're looking at all sides of the issue,
Yes, and that you're basing your judgment on evidence.
not just what you already think.
Exactly.
And I could also see them following up with something like, can you share an example of a time when your impartiality was challenged?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because that's where you really demonstrate your integrity,
Right.
your commitment to ethical conduct.
Maybe a time when you had to present a report that contradicted a popular opinion?
Ooh, that'd be tough.
Yeah, or mediate a conflict between two groups with very different views.
Okay, so it's really about showing that you can stay professional and objective.
Even when it's difficult.
Yeah, even when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about career aspirations because, they always ask that question.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's a classic.
It is, and it's a good opportunity to really think about, how do your personal goals connect with this role?
Right, and with the field of foreign affairs in general.
So do you want to specialize in a particular region?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself taking on a leadership position?
Exactly.
And I think this is where RoleCatcher's career guide can be really helpful.
It can because it outlines typical career paths for foreign service officers.
So you can see what the expectations are.
Right, you can see the skills you need at each level.
Okay, and I would also say, don't forget to mention your plans for professional development,
Yes.
whether it's pursuing another degree,
Going to conferences.
yeah, attending conferences, doing research,
All of those things show that you're committed to lifelong learning.
which is so important in this field.
It is because it's constantly changing.
All right, so we've talked about, career paths, but RoleCatcher also has these really helpful skill guides
They do.
that can help you identify areas where you might need to develop your expertise a little bit more.
And there are so many different skills that are important in foreign affairs.
So give us some examples.
So, negotiation diplomacy, intercultural communication, even public speaking.
It's all about communication.
It really is.
Right.
And these guides can give you insights and resources to help you improve.
So it's really about making yourself as competitive as possible.
Exactly. Because like we said before, it's a very competitive field.
Okay, so let's revisit a question that I think is really important, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's about building relationships with foreign governments and officials.
Yeah. And that is absolutely key to being a successful diplomat.
It is, and it's more than just being polite.
Right. It's about understanding those cultural nuances,
Yeah.
navigating diplomatic protocols, establishing trust.
And I think it would be really helpful to give some specific examples of how you've built rapport with people from different cultural backgrounds.
Yes. So, have you participated in Model UN, volunteered with an international organization, studied abroad?
And don't forget about nonverbal communication,
Oh, that's so important.
because your body language, your tone of voice,
Even your gestures,
yeah,
all of that can have a big impact.
huge impacts, especially when you're dealing with different cultures.
And that's one of the things that I really like about RoleCatcher's AI-powered interview practice.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it gives you feedback not only on what you say, but on how you say it.
So it's like having a virtual coach.
Right. And it can help you polish your communication skills for those all-important interactions.
That's fantastic. Okay, so here's a final question that I think really tests your ability to think on your feet.
Okay, I like it.
Imagine you're assigned to the U.S. Embassy in country. What are some cultural considerations you would prioritize?
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a good one, right?
It is, because it's not just about, general cultural awareness.
Yeah, you have to really know your stuff.
Yeah, you have to demonstrate a deeper understanding of that country's values.
And sensitivity.
Exactly.
So how would you approach learning about, the local customs
Right.
and etiquette?
Well, you could mention specific books or articles that you've read, documentaries you've seen.
Have you ever interacted with people from that culture?
Yeah. Any experience that shows your interest and your willingness to learn.
And I would say, don't forget about the practical considerations as well.
Oh, yes.
Like language learning resources, cultural sensitivity training,
Yeah.
even connecting with diplomats who've worked in that country.
Right, because it's all about showing that you're proactive
Exactly.
and that you're committed to representing your country effectively.
I'm curious, are there any other ways that RoleCatcher can help someone prepare for a specific embassy posting?
Definitely, their AI can analyze job descriptions for those specific postings
Okay.
and highlight the skills and experience that are most valued in that context.
So it's really tailored.
It is very tailored. It can even suggest content for your application
That's amazing.
that emphasizes your understanding of the region,
Wow.
the policy issues, and the cultural considerations.
So it's all about going deep.
It is going beyond those generic answers and showing that you really know your stuff.
Okay, well, that's a lot of great information about how to prepare for a Foreign Service Officer interview.
It is.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like it.
Imagine you're advising a world leader on a pressing global issue. What issue would you choose, or what approach would you recommend?
Ooh, that is a good one.
Yeah.
Really makes you think
Yeah.
about what it takes to be a Foreign Service officer.
It really does, because you have to, consider all these different perspectives
Exactly.
and then come up with a plan.
That's strategic and diplomatic.
Exactly. It's not just about knowing the facts.
Right.
You have to be able to use them.
And your analytical skills.
Yes.
And your cultural intelligence.
To actually make a difference.
It's about understanding how everything is connected,
Yeah.
how important diplomacy is, and what the consequences of those decisions are.
So I think as, anybody listening is thinking about a career in foreign affairs, keep that question in mind.
It's a good one to ponder.
It is, let it fuel your research and your learning and just your passion.
For making a positive difference.
Exactly.
And, we've talked about a lot of different things today.
I have.
But preparation is key.
It really is.
So do your research, practice your answers.
And use those resources like RoleCatcher.
Yes, because they can give you such a competitive edge.
Their insights, their tools, that AI platform.
It's like having a team of experts in your corner.
It is guiding you every step of the way.
So to all those aspiring diplomats out there, good luck.
Yes, best of luck.
For your journey.
We're rooting for you.
We are.
And until next time, happy deep diving.
Bye, Larry.
See ya.